when it zooms. Okay? So you might have a view at the top level inside your content area scroll view that contains all your other views and that's zooming in, that's fine. Or there might just be one view that makes sense to zoom. But you have to return which subview is going to get scaled, which is going to have its transform applied to it. Okay? You can also zoom programmatically. Again, the user is usually pinching to zoom, but you can do it programmatically by just setting this property zoom scale. When you do set it, you probably want to set it with set zoom scale animated instead of just setting the zoom scale property directly so that it gets animated. And you can also zoom to a rectangle, which looks like this. So here's zoom scale 1.2, so I'm zoomed in a little bit. If I go to zoom scale 1, okay, this is actual size. I can go back to zoom scale 1.2. I can also zoom to a rectangle. Let's say I have this little rectangle right here, the nose of this beast. And if I zoom, it will make it as big as possible. Okay? It still fits, so it zooms in. Or if I had a square that was bigger than what was currently showing and I said zoom to rect, it'll zoom it down. Okay? So you can just basically take a rectangle and make it fit as best it can. All right. So scroll view has lots and lots of delegate methods besides that view for zooming and scroll view thing. For example, if you zoomed in, you pinched to zoom and you zoomed way in on a view, it's going to be really pixelated because it's going to be doing a transform-based scale, right? Scaling the bits up. The bits might look huge. But you get a delegate method, scroll view did end zooming with view at scale, that will tell you, the scroll view will tell you, I just finished zooming this thing and now it's at this scale. And now you could redraw your view to not be pixelated. Okay? So this would be a good way to kind of let them zoom in and out, really high performance, a little pixelated, but their fingers are in the way anyway, so they can't probably tell that much. And then when they let go, you can do it. And in fact, you even get notification while it's doing it, so you could even do it while it's doing it. It better be high performance drawing because they're pinching in and out, but you could do it. But I just want to show an example of a delegate method. There's probably a dozen more scroll view delegate methods. You can go look at the UI scroll view delegate documentation to find out what they all are. Okay, so we'll do a demo. It's a pretty comprehensive demo. I'm going to be showing you scroll view and that URL downloading thing. And I'm also going to show you, we'll do another navigation controller just to show it again in class. And at the end, I'm going to show you a little animation thing, a spinner that can spin while things are happening in other threads. So the main thread can show this little spinner so people can see what's going on. So we'll try to get all of that to fit into our time. So we're going to make a new project here. So I'm just going to create a new project. And I'm going to call this project Imaginarium. Okay. There's Imaginarium. We'll put it in my home directory developer, which I highly recommend. Here it is. Okay, I'm dragging app delegate to supporting files. Probably the week after next, we'll start talking about this app delegate. Really, the app delegate mostly comes in when we talk about multitasking in iOS. And we will start talking about multitasking the week after next, but not today. So here we go with this basic view controller right here, this blank view controller. And I'm going to start off right off the bat by making a new MVC, a new view controller. And what this view controller does is it takes a URL and displays that is a URL that's for an image on the internet, some JPEG file, and it displays it. Okay? So that's what this first thing I'm going to create is. So let's just go straight to that. New file. I'm going to create a new class. It's going to be a UI view controller. Okay? I'm going to call it image view controller. Okay? Because that's what it does. The view controller displays an image. Put it right here. So here's my image view controller. I'm going to start right with its public API, as I am wont to do with new classes. So I'm going to have a property, which is non-atomic strong, which is going to be an NS URL, which is image URL. Okay? So this is the public API. If you set this image URL, this view controller will display that image. Okay? How's it going to do that? It's going to use a class which we talked about a few weeks ago called UI image view. UI image view is kind of like UI label is to text. UI image view is to an image. It just takes a UI image, has a property which is a UI image, and it displays it. So it does exactly what we want. So this controller is obviously going to use that. So let's get rid of all this stuff. And so what do I need here to do this? Well, I'm going to need one of those image views. So let's create a UI image view. Okay. Right. Why is that not doing the right thing already? Okay. See there? Oh, maybe because of this. all right, yeah. Sure. Okay, well, I'm not sure why it's saying that. But anyway, okay, sorry. So we have this image view. That's going to be the main thing. So I'm going to lazily instantiate that. Image view, if not image view, then image view equals UI image view, alloc. And at this time, I don't know its frame, so I'll just make it be 0, 0, but I'll have to make sure its frame gets set properly. At some point, when I set its image, I better make sure its frame is set properly. And so we have that. Now I'm going to do another interesting thing while we're here, just to show you how this is done. I'm going to have another property, which is going to be a UI image. And this is going to be the image we're displaying. But what's interesting about this property is I'm not going to use an instance variable to store it. Okay? I'm going to implement the setter and the getter, and I'm not going to use an instance variable. Okay? So how does that work? Well, let's do the getter. Oops, image. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm just going to return my image views my image views image. Okay? So when someone wants this property, it's just a private property, but whenever I want this property in my code, I'm just going to return the image views one. And similarly, when I set this image, okay, let's see if we can make this do the right thing in terms of code coloring. I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's try this again. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure. Oh, there we go. Okay, I want to get these colors going here. All right, so let's set our UI image. And same thing here. I'm going to just self.imageView.image equals the image. But here's why I'm defining this little image. Because whenever I set the image in the image view, I need to do one other thing, which is self.imageView size to fit. Okay, I want the image view to adjust its frame to fit that image. So since I always want to do that whenever I set the image view's image, I'm just creating my own little property, which has sensible semantics, that does this little size to fit. There's some other things we're going to want to do when we set an image, and we can put them all in here. But we'll start with these. Okay? The next thing I need to do is in viewDidLoad, like this. Let's go ahead and add this image view to self.view. So let's do super viewDidLoad, and then I'm going to say self.view, add subview, self.imageView. Okay, so that way, make sure I get it on screen. Question?
Do you need to do synthesis for the image?
Yeah, great question. So there's no @synthesize for UI, this UI image thing, right? And compiler's not complaining either. What is going on? Why don't I need an @synthesize? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Yeah.
Because you never use the instance variable.
Correct. The answer is because I never use the instance variable. Okay? Since image is totally defined in terms of another object, I'm never using underbar image, and therefore I don't need to synthesize that instance variable. That's what @synthesize does. It creates that instance variable. And I don't need it. So the compiler's not complaining because I'm not using it, so I don't even need it. Everyone, that's kind of why I did this property, so that you would see that. Okay, everybody got that? Okay, so now I have this wonderful view. The last thing I want to do here is when someone sets my public API, set image URL, obviously I want to set that image view's image to be that. So let's store our image URL here. And then I'm just going to say self.image equals ns UI image with data, ns data with contents of URL, self.image URL. Okay, let's make some more space. Okay, so all I'm doing here is I'm calling this self.image, which is going to call this down here, right, this set image. And I'm creating a new UI image using the data that I get by getting the contents of that URL. This is going to block because that URL is going to be out on the internet. If this URL is on the internet, this will block. If it's a file URL, it won't. It'll just get the data. Okay? But this is very important to understand. This is where we might be blocking the main queue. Okay? And that's going to be bad. We're going to block the main queue, and then we're going to unblock it. Okay? But we're going to start out blocking it, which is bad. But this is the line of code that's the offender, because data with contents or URL will go out on the network if that URL is an HTTP something. Okay? Okay, so now what image are we going to display, right? We have this nice generic image displayer. What are we going to display? And now let's go, we're on the internet. So I've got these images right here that actually Apple has. They've put up a few images that were kind of example images that were taken by an iPhone 5S, I guess. And you can see there's this one, photo 1, which is this flower. And then there's photo 2, which is these peppers, I guess those are. And then 3, which is this jellyfish. Okay, so I want to have my app be able to display these images. Okay, so I'm going to make it so I can display any of these 3 images. So how am I going to do that? All right, I'm going to go to my storyboard. And first I'm going to drag out a view controller to be my image view controller. So let's drag that out. And we know that we need to set its class to be image view controller. So now I have this nice image view controller that can display an image. And now I'm going to put some buttons in this view controller. This is the default view controller that got created when I created the app. So I'm going to create one here. We'll create one for the peppers and whatever those things are. And then let's create one for the, what was the first one? A flower. And then what was the other thing? It was a jellyfish. Okay, so I got these buttons, and I want to, when I click on these buttons, I want it to show up here. Okay? So I'm going to use that by doing a navigation controller and have it segue. Okay, just so we can review the segues. One thing I want to do to all of these is let's give them some nice things here. Let's have them horizontally centered that way. Let's have this guy horizontally centered or vertically centered this way. Let's control drag from this guy up this and keep the vertical spacing. Control like this and that vertical space. So I do all that. You can see I have some yellow here, some yellow constraints. Let's go fix those. We'll go over here, do this. We'll fix misplacement there. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll fix that one, and we'll fix that one. So now they're doing it. This might be a nice chance to go here and select on this and go switch over to landscape. Looks like it's doing something sensible there, so that's good. Okay, everybody got that? Just a little review of auto layout there. All right, so let's put this inside of a navigation controller. So I'm going to embed in navigation controller. So that puts that here. That's good. Let's go ahead and put a title in here. We'll call this Imaginarium. Now I want to segue when any of these buttons is pressed to do this. So I'm just going to control drag. So let's control drag this one, push, control drag this one, push, and control drag this one, push. Now you see I've got these 3 segues in here. If I click on one, it'll tell me what is causing that segue to happen, which is kind of a nice feature. Now what am I going to use for my identifiers for here? Well, actually I'm going to be a little bit tricky here. I'm going to use the name of the photo as the identifier, and then in my prepare for segue I will use that to pick which of the 3 photos I'm going to show. So, you know, it's a demo, so I'm trying to make this as little code as possible. So here's my 3 things are going to have these 3 identifiers. And I need to do prepare for segue in this guy. Right? So let's go do that. Let's do it this way. Let's go over here to our view controller. We don't need any of this. This is our generic